welcome back for part 2 of our Town Hall 9 modeling within Cinema 4D. So today we're going to be doing the tower portion of our Town Hall. We're going to be doing a little bit of tweaks to the bottom, including the chain and the door. A couple of these walls need to be rounded a little bit, nothing too crazy, just nice easy stuff that's pretty easy to do, and we'll continue towards our goal of this. But we'll try to speed it up because I know the last video was very long and we don't want another super long video like that. So let's hop straight back into this. Let's get a few more spheres coming in here. Not spheres, cylinders. We are going to work on the chain portion. Alright, so we got our cylinder. Alright, so the radius is going to have to be pretty small, maybe like a 2 radius. We're going to be creating these two little things and then our chains. So it doesn't nearly need to be this long, so we can do like 15 height is let's go 30. And we will put it like there. Maybe, I'll put it on this line, this grid line here. Just someplace centered so that when I move this one, I just need to go 3 over. Boom. Now we got 2 cylinders sticking out over our door, and that's going to be what our chains are hooking up to. Alright, so for our chains, we can do a quick and easy little thing. I'm just going to drag the physical sky and the floor to the bottom. And if I just group these all, just to hide them, I'm just going to hide them in our scene. Alright, for our chains, if we come into the splines and grab a rectangle, we don't need the rectangle to be very big, so we can go like 50 by 50. And now we get this square. And it actually has this button called rounding. So now we can set the rounding to maybe like 15. And then we can bring the width in. So we get this oval shape, kind of like the shape of a chain link. And now, if we go ahead and grab another spline of a circle, we can drop this down to maybe 2 or 3. Let's start with 3. And we're just going to grab a sweep NURBS. We're going to drop both of those splines in there. And we got ourselves our chain link. Perfect. So now we can see if we want this thicker, if we want this thinner. I think 4 is a little bit good because it is a chain, so they're usually a little bit thicker. Perfect. So we're going to call this chain link. Not cane link. Chain link. Now we're just... This part takes a few little seconds here. What we're going to do is... I'm just going to connect and delete the objects. And then I just clicked this button here, which is enable axis modifications, and I just dragged my axis up so that it's in the center of my object, because before it was on the ground, so when I would rotate it, that's where the pivot point would be. So I'm just moving it into the center. And I'm just going to copy and paste one, drag it up so that these are almost touching. Something like that. And then we're just going to go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees. Now we can copy and paste both of them, and we just need to move them straight up, like so. Copy and paste, go straight up. Straight up. And now that we have a bunch, we can copy and paste the entire thing. We can drag it. So we get our chain. We might need to do it one more time. Okay, that's where it is. Something like that. So now that we have our chain, we're just going to copy, we're going to select them all and connect and delete objects. So now that we have our chain, I'm going to click the enable axis modification again, and I'm going to bring this closer to the middle. Okay, we have a chain. We can bring back our scene with our town hall. Obviously the chain is massive, so we can scale this down, figure out what we need, size it appropriately. Something like this. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit longer because there is going to be a bend to it, and and the bend is just gonna take up some of this extra length. So we're going to grab a bend, we're going to put it on our chain, we're going to come into our bend, we're going to fit it to parent so it sizes it correctly, and now we're just going to bend it, flip this upside down, 180 degrees. And I don't like how, I want this to bend a little bit, or go straight down a little bit and then start bending. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our bend modifier, and I'm just going to drag this down till I want it to start bending, so right about there. And then we can just crank up the strength a little bit more till it reaches our 4 line. That's looking good. We'll grab our chain link, we'll drag this up a little bit more and position it with our cylinder that we have here, like so. Drag it down a tiny bit. There's nothing really connecting the two, but as long as they're very close, you don't really know. Once again, I just like to connect and delete objects because why not? I just copied this one, and these are actually very close into the doorway, so I'm just going to drag them a little bit further off to the side where they're a little bit better placed. So something like this, where they're not right in the middle of the doorway. And then for our little floor that we have here, we're just going to throw a another cube. We're going to bring this one till about where the chains end, just past. We're going to make the height very low, maybe like 5. Bring this to the bottom, like so, and then just size it so that it fits within the door like this. We can lengthen it and drag it back and lengthen it, something like that. Perfect. Well, don't want to make it that wide. There we go. We got the chains, we got the little door on the ground. Let's round these corners for our wall. So we're going to do this the same way we've been doing everywhere else. We'll grab the base, we'll select our edges that we want to bevel. Good. Right click, bevel. Make sure that's set to 5 or whatever, and we're just going to add a slight little bevel here. Something like that. Nothing too extreme. And now, I believe we have officially gotten the base of our town hall done. Perfect. Render it out. It is looking good. All right, so let's start working on our tower. Actually, what I can do is I'm going to grab all of this. I'm going to drop our whole base into the scene here. And I'm going to drop it under our group object, and I'm going to call it base. That's everything on the bottom. Now we have our tower. It's our big cube that we put there near the very beginning. So right away when our tower extrudes, it bevels in so that we can have these. They're very hard to see, but there's these little windows here. So we'll make this editable. Polygon mode. We'll select the top polygon. And we're going to go straight into bevel right now. And we're just going to bevel it in slightly, maybe like that. Nothing too extreme. That's like 4.5 centimeters at 5 subdivisions. We're going to bevel this, or not bevel, we're going to extrude this upwards. This part it's hard to tell on this angle, but it's got a little bit. I think that's pretty good. It's about the same height from the roof to the top of our, until we bevel. So this part is about the same as that part. Something like that. From here to here. It's about the same from here to here. And now it goes bigger. Right here there's this little band that goes around it. So if we go to inner extrude, I know it says inner extrude, but you can actually make it bigger by dragging the other way and making it a negative measurement. So if I go to like -7, it actually brings the polygon edge outside of where it was before. Right click extrude, we'll bring it up to make that band. Now if we go back to inner extrude and just inner extrude slightly, we can get that band that we wanted. All right, so now we got to come in, and it has these little, I don't even know what you want to call them, but these little jut outs, these little stepped up portions of it. And then it comes in and it goes down for the center. So I think that's a pretty good height. We will inner extrude and then till we get a decent portion here. And then we're going to click extrude again, and we're going to do a negative extrude into the center, like so. And we're just going to inner extrude very slightly, and then we're going to extrude down very slightly to give it a little edge there. All right, so now that we have the rough shape for our top tower of our town hall here, we want to go ahead and add some of these little, whatever you want to call it, into our edges here, our polygons. So if we grab cubes, always grabbing cubes, it's never-ending cubes, and we can set these to whatever size we want, and just set them so that they don't need to be very tall. They can just be maybe like 30, and set it so it is just above the bottom edge here. And whatever you set for these is what our, so whatever is the open part is what's going to be left once we're finished with this little object. Yeah. Alright, so we'll just set those like that. Just something random. Doesn't need to be anything perfect. I'm going to make those 90. We can even leave that the same. I'm going to select all of those cubes that we just made. I'm going to right click on them. I'm going to go connect objects and delete. We're going to grab a bool, drop both of those in there. And right away we got our little jet outs, our little edges that we were going for here. Everything is looking good. And if we want to round these edges now, all we need to do is grab the tower, come into our lines, and if we come back to our loop selection and select the two rings, we can do our bevel like we've been doing in the past. And now we have these beveled corners for our tower. Once again, I'm just going to highlight all and go connect and delete, and I'm going to name this tower. And our town hall is coming along very nicely. So now we can add some windows in here by doing like we did for the bottom. 2 windows here. We're just going to grab a cube, put it to where we want it to be. Let's make it about 20 by 20 by 20 by 20, a little cube. Drag this out. I'm going to do a cloner object for this, because if we drop our cube in the cloner object, now we can set how many we want. So in the picture there's 4. There's 4 little windows. So if we set the count to 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want it on the y-axis though, we want it on the z-axis. So if we change that, we have our 4 windows right there. Position it someplace on the windows. Perfect, just like that. So those will be our windows. There's most likely some on each side, so I'm not going to do it for the tutorial, but you can copy and drag this on every side of our tower. Again, with our bool object, throw it in there. When there's the color does change, because for whatever reason the cloner object is a different default color than a normal object. So you can color the inside of our castle. So if we just throw the white on the base, throw the white on the tower, and throw the white on the cloner, now when we connect and delete all of this, tower, the inside is the same color as the outside. Give this a quick little render. It's going to start taking a little bit longer every single time you add some stuff. It shouldn't take overly long, depending on what kind of computer you have and everything. This is looking good, guys. So you might notice, like, it might be hard to see on your screen, but we have these jagged edges. If we come into render settings and go anti-aliasing and just set that to best, that'll smooth all of our jagged edges out, or any other little trouble areas that have rough edges. It should smooth that right out. Unless it's a rough edge from your object, then it won't help. So you can see that our jagged edges that we had there, we have a nice crisp line now. Our shadows are nice. This side of our building is very, very bright, so if we want, we can come to our physical sky and change it so that it's a warmer sun, closer to sunset, so that when we go ahead and render, it won't be so blown out and we can see more details on that one side. Obviously, that's just trial and error, and whatever look you're going for, or whatever you prefer. But I just quickly changed it. We have a nice warm sun coming in here now. A lot more detail that we can see on this side. Alright. So now let's start making these 2 little towers. So we'll grab 2 more cubes, of course, and we will bring it off to the side, drag it up, and now we want to set these to a more reasonable size, maybe like a 50, 75 by 75 seems pretty good. And by 125 for the Y, so that they stick above our castle nicely, because here they stick above the castle, and they're just under that band. It's a little difficult to gauge, but you can make it whatever looks good. Obviously, it's on a higher slope. It's something like this, so it's harder to see. But we'll start with this for now. So we got these flat edge corners here for our little tower with a little lip on the bottom. So we'll go ahead, we'll make it editable. We'll come to polygon mode, and we'll grab that same plane cut that we did before. And we're just going to plane cut. This band here is just over 1 grid length, and we have just 1 over, so we'll cut right on this grid. Oops. We'll just undo that one. Let go of shift there at the last. What is going on? It keeps changing it. There we go. Managed to do it 4th times the charm. Let's click UL to get our loop selection tool. Head into polygon mode and grab that bottom one. We are going to extrude this out ever so slightly. Come back into edge mode. Grab our loop selection tool again. UL is the shortcut. And we're going to very slightly bevel that edge. Just going to try to pick up the pace for you guys a little bit here. We don't want it to drag out too long. I'm going to grab all 4 of these corners here by using the live selection tool with only visible elements checked off, so I can select through the cube to get that back edge. And we're going to come into bevel, and we're going to set the subdivision to 0. And we're going to... Actually, I got to change... I'm just going to back up so that we don't have our band in yet, because it is going to screw it up when I try to do this next little part here. Sorry about that. Alright, so I got our edge selected. I can leave these line cuts here. Come into bevel. We'll bevel it out. Give it a nice big corner. Now we'll do our loop selection for our bottom and add our band. Come back into edge. Loop selection for the bottom, and we'll bevel it out. There. All right. Little mix up, but we solved it here. We got our beveled edge. We got somewhat rounded corners. Nice flat rounded corners. There's a window on the side we can add in a minute, but we'll make our little roof for now. So for that, we're going to actually grab not a cube. We're going to grab a pyramid. Center that very roughly and very quickly on here. I'm going to make it so it's just the tiniest bigger than our cube. Something like that. I'll drag this up. And it is crazy, but we can grab the pop point and drag it down so it's flatter. Doesn't have to be that flat. Right like that. Okay. Make this edible. And if we grab these four corners again and do our bevel trick with 0 subdivisions, it actually rounds off our corners for us, which is nice. Alright. Now, if you look, the corners are actually rounded to be the same size as our corner rounding ones. So that is the same size here. Maybe a little bit smaller, but so I'll go like 12.5. But now our top of our pyramid, what is going on here? Ah, see? It's because I had selected that bottom. Alright, apply. 12.5. We got our rounded. Now we want this to be more of a point, so I'm just going to come into the point selection tool. Going to select these 4 top points. Come to my scale tool, and I'm just going to scale them in together. I'm just going to delete the Phong tags. And we'll come and see. It gets pretty close to a point at the top, so we'll scale it almost all the way to a point. That's looking much better. The only thing that this has now is it does have some thickness at the bottom, which ours doesn't. It's a flat polygon. So we'll just grab that bottom polygon and extrude it like so. Alright. It is slightly rounded on these 2 edges. So if I grab those 2 edges and bevel, set this to 5, set this to like 1. We'll set this to like 0.5. Alright. So we got, we almost got 1 finished here. It's looking good. That is looking real good. We'll drag this up a little bit higher because it does go higher than the roof here. It is a little big, so I'm just going to shrink this down. Actually, I'm just going to shrink the cube down in size. There, that looks much better. And let's add that window on the side here and this point. So for the point, it's pretty easy. You can just grab another pyramid. You can make the sizes pretty small, like 10 by 10 by 20 or something. Roughly place the point here. You can center it by placing the lines on the intersecting corners here. So now it's centered. We can make the bottom 15 by 15. And it is rounded, so we'll make it editable. Grab our live selection tool, select our edges. We'll select all the edges because I think all of it is round. We'll bevel it at 5. Very, very slightly on this one. You don't have too much room to play with. We got our beveled top. Let's go ahead and throw that window in there. Again, we'll grab a cube. We'll drag it to roughly the location we want. We'll quickly resize it. I think that's a almost right size. It's a little bit too big, and it's closer to the top that it is. So something like that. We'll throw it into a bool. Boom, we got our nice little object now. We'll call these turrets, because I think that's what the proper name for the castle towers that have these points on it are turrets. We'll make it white like everything else, so I'm just going to delete the Fong tags off them. I'm going to group this and then call it turret. And we're just going to copy and paste the whole null group and drag it to the side. They're pretty close to the edge, actually. They're like something like that. So if we look at our town hall now and look at this, it's starting to look very similar. Besides our textures and 30 minutes already. This is looking good. All right, let's add this little grate, and then we can rush into texturing. So we'll come to our tower. I'm actually just going to add a camera at this view, and I'm just going to go to Cinema 4D tags and add protection so I can't move the actual camera. Let's grab a tube. Let's center it with our object. So we're going to go 50 centimeters this way and 50 centimeters to the side, and that's going to be perfectly centered. And we're going to drag it so it just breaches the top of our castle. We're going to bring this down. Something like that. And now we're going to lower the rotation segments until to about 8. Because there's a point, and then there's a point here and a point here. Which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. So we got the right shape. We can add a nice little fillet here with like one radius. We'll call this gate rim. And next we need some more cubes. Drag our cube up here. All right. So now we just want to resize this cube till it's pretty much just bigger than our object here. Something like that. It's hard to see, so we're just kind of winging it with this one. All right. We'll add like a 1 fillet radius here. Now what we got to do is we're going to drop this in the cloner. We're going to change the cloner to radial. And we're going to change the plane. And then we're going to change we're going to come into transform on our cloner. And we're going to change the H to 90. Again, we're going to move it 50 degrees up and 50 degrees to the right to get it perfectly centered. We also know we need 8 cubes, because 1 for each point. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then double that, because those are opposites. So we'll make this 8 points. We'll drag this up. And then we can just set the radius. And just like that, we got the top almost done. Now we just got to make a hole in the top and make a grate. We can do that super fast. If we copy and paste this gate rim and then set the inner radius to about 0 and the outer radius to just a bit smaller, we don't need the height to be that big. Again, we're going to use the bool. We're going to throw the gate, our cylinder that we just made, and our tower in there. So now that we have a hole, might just make the outer radius a little bit smaller, like so. And now for our gate, I'm just, again, connect and delete all these objects. Just going to throw a white texture on the bool object. Rename this tower. Alright, so now for this one's easy. If we just take a plane, center it again, and drag it up so that we can see it. Just resize it so that it's hiding so it's just inside our edges here. Now, nice and easy, just drop the whole thing into an atom array, change it to like 0.5. Oh, that's the wrong one. Atom array, change cylinder radius to 0.5 and change sphere radius to 0.5. .75, and boom, we got a grate. Nice and easy, just like that. Great. Great caps. Just kind of naming everything as we go. So, we got the grate and everything on the top. We got the windows for our turrets. We got our chains. We got the rounded edges. We have pretty much made our town hall. Check that out. So we got everything. We got, besides like little ridges like this, you can cut lines and extrude some segments and everything. But we got the base of our town hall perfectly done here, guys. All we got to do is start texturing all of this and we'll be laughing. So we just need a red, a dark blackish brown, and then a gray and a gold. So we'll start with the red. The red is more like a flat red. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn off reflectance. We'll grab a red, maybe make it a tiny bit more orange. We're going to throw it on the roof. Now, the only problem with this is we're going to have to select polygons for our base. Just deleting the Fong tags on everything. For our base, we'll go polygon mode. We'll come out of camera. We're just going to hide the tower and the gate caps, gate rims, all of that. And we are going to just paint with our selection tool, real rough and real fast, all the stuff we want. deselect all the stuff we don't want. Oops, we didn't want to do that. Just undo that one. It's gonna blitz through this. Doesn't need to be. I'm just doing this quick for the tutorial, but if you're doing this for a project or for yourself or whatever you want to do, I suggest taking a little bit more time than I am. But we gotta. All right, so we painted the roof very roughly with our selection tool. We'll go ahead. We'll drop our red onto that. Okay, there we go. So now we got our red roofs here. Let's check it out. So we got the red roof and the red caps. So all of our red objects are done. I'm just going to quickly go ahead here and bring all of our little objects back. We're going to give this a quick render. There's a few different colors going on now, so it might look a little bit weird, but we just want to see how our red is looking. It's a little bit too bright. This is bright. It's a little bit flatter and grayer, so we're just going to drag this down into the grays so that it's not such a bright candy looking red. We want that nice flat darker red, just like that. I can see on our base there's a tiny little bit of polygons here that aren't selected and it's bugging me, so I'm just going to drop that in there and that should fix it. Oops. Alright. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to make kind of this flat gray for the roof, our turrets, and all of that. So it's not super dark. Well, uncheck reflectance. It's more of like almost like this gray. Maybe a tiny bit lighter. And that is for the turrets, but not the bands and the bottom. So we'll come into turret. We'll select both turrets. We'll go into... Alright, so since these are still selected, I'm going to make a separate color that's more this brown color while we still got those polygons selected. So we're going to come between orange and red here, and we're going to get this dark blackish brownish color. And we're going to paint those, and now we're going to come into selection. We're going to invert it, and we're going to put our gray there. What happened is it's still selecting these. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab, I just backed up here before. We're going to highlight the bottom polygons like so. So we'll just quickly highlight all of them. And then if we come to our loop selection, and you might need to zoom in quite a bit here, but if we select all of our subdivisions for our bevel. All right, there we go. Now we can throw our dark brown in there, select, invert, throw the flat gray. Come back to our camera. We'll give this a quick render and see what we're looking at. Starting to look much better. This is a very dark black, and it's not as brown as it is here. So we'll come into our black object. We'll lighten it up a little bit. Maybe something like that. I won't do a full render. I'll just do a small little render region here. That is much better. And this gray is actually not as dark as we have it either. So we can just lighten it up. So it's all just trial and error. You try, you render something, you look at it. It's not exactly how it is. It's easy to change. So those colors are looking much better. Let's go ahead and try to create this gold color that we have. So between yellow and orange someplace, we're going to get this color, maybe a tiny bit more yellow. You can even bring it closer to the white on this S scale. We're going to add the tiniest bit of reflection, so I'm just going to remove the layer and add a Beckman. We're just going to lower down everything to about 10%. Specular all the way down. And we'll just bring roughness up to like 5. We'll drop that on gold trim, obviously. Our two little pyramids up here. Our whole grate up at the top. Besides the actual grate part, I should mention. Our grate part is actually this gray, so we'll drop that in there. We'll give that a render. That is looking pretty good. This is a little bit brighter of a yellow. This is more of kind of like a mustard color. And we'll bring the reflection up a little bit on everything, just to help it. We'll add this to additive so that it's not. Let's more of a yellow. It's all about just playing around to get the perfect colors, but I don't want to drag this on longer than it has to be because we're already pushing 50 minutes here again. We're going to stick with this color here that we got. It's looking better than it did before. It's not so mustardy. It's closer to the gold side. Alright, so now we got this band on our thing is our brown along with the inside. So polygon mode once again. Sorry, I'm rushing through this a little bit more, guys, right now. We'll get out of our camera because I cannot move. With our selection tool, paint the inside. Drop our brown. We're going to grab our loop selection tool and we're just going to select our little bands that we have there. Paint that. And it looks like we're just going to select this bottom one here too. Throw the brown on there. Actually, I'll select all of these. Perfect. Now we can throw the brown on there. And if I go invert, everything else can get the dark gray. Shoot that a render. So we're getting closer to this final look. It does have these like little lava spewy things. You can add a texture with a noise and everything to get some. This brown is very brown. I'm just going to bring it a little bit more gray. The bottom is this same gray here. So we'll come to the base. Polygon mode for our base. Restore selection. So if we click on this triangle and then click restore selection, that creates polygon selections. So now we can just go invert, and we have the rest of our castle. We'll drop that gray on there, that base gray that we are using for here. The chains are gold and our corner pieces are gold, so gold, 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 gold. I'm just gonna drop this brownish color on our cylinders that are holding our chains. And there is a slightly, I'm just going to copy the color that we had before, but I'm just going to add a one so I can make it slightly more reflective. And then I'm going to give the trim pieces that reflective material. And we can get more specific with the door piece on your own, because it does have, you can add another square and then overlay it with red, and you can add an actual texture on it to give it this red and gold. But this is getting very long, and I don't want to push it too much longer. We're pushing at 52 minutes here. But I just wanted to show you guys basic textures. You can obviously tweak these textures a ton more to make it look a lot better. But for basic texturing and just giving this close to colors like we have it, there you have it, guys. We have our Town Hall 10 with Inside Cinema 4D. We covered all of our basic modeling techniques. Sorry this was a little bit of a lengthy video, guys, but I really hope this gave you a little bit more confidence and experience with modeling things with Inside Cinema 4D, and the knowledge to go out and use these techniques to make your own things. If you liked the video, guys, leave a like down below. I appreciate it a lot. If you like the videos we're putting out, subscribe, and there's tons more where that came from. But overall, guys, I hope you learned a lot and enjoyed watching this two-part video, and I will talk to you guys soon. See you guys.